Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Alton Planning Board for Tuesday, December 17th, 6 p.m. I am the chairman. My name is Bill O'Neill, and we'd like to do roll call of board members.
Tom Divney.
Tom Hoops.
Nick Bonapane.
I'd like to appoint Tom Hoops for as an alternate to sit tonight because I'm missing a few people. So first thing on the agenda is the public hearing for the 2024-2025 proposed zoning amendments to the Alton zoning ordinance. And notice is hereby given to the Alton Planning Board to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024, starting at 6 p.m. at Alton Town Hall to consider proposed amendments to the Alton ordinance for 2025 ballot vote as follows. Planning Board proposed amendment number 1 to amend Article 200 definitions by adding new definitions for boathouse, cupola, density, fence, legal, footprint, front yard, and in-kind. Planning Board proposed amendment number 2 to amend Article 200 definitions by amending definitions for accessory dwelling unit or ADU and seasonal cabin. Planning Board proposed amendment number 3 to make corrections to the definition of non-conforming structure in Article 200 definitions and make several changes to Section 320 non-conforming uses, structures, and lots, including wording changes, reorganization, adding of the opportunity to apply for a special exemption from the Zoning Board of Adjustment, ZBA, to change one conforming use to another that is equally or more appropriate for the location. Limit the expansion of a building containing a non-conforming use to 10%. Limit the voluntary replacement of non-conforming structures to those that are structurally deficient and or can't meet the New Hampshire State Building Code. Require a variance from the ZBA for the expansion of the portion of non-conforming structure that is in the setback and qualify when non-conforming lots can be built upon without a variance from the ZBA. Planning Board proposed amendment number 4 to amend Article 300, Section 350, manufactured and pre-site built housing by striking the language for pre-site built housing, modular homes, and creating a new ordinance entitled Section 349, pre-site built housing. And to amend Section 412E, restrictions governing use. This proposed amendment will also stem an amendment to the table of contents and the table of uses. Planning Board proposed amendment number 5 to amend Article 400, Section 463, restrictions governing use, residential rural, by adding language that states that only one residential use may be permitted on a lot to be consistent with the other zones. And Planning Board proposed amendment number 6 to amend Article 500 by adding new section 535 conditions which lists potential conditions of approval for special exceptions and variances. And
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Before we move forward, did you approve the agenda?
oh, we didn't. Sorry. Okay, before I want to open this up to public, but let me sorry about that. Let me I missed that. Any changes to the agenda?
So there are
Okay,
no
okay,
changes.
that's fine.
Yep.
All right, we need a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 planning board agenda.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, sorry about
Thank you.
that. I'll move back to the zoning amendments. So any questions or comments or anything from the public? It's a public hearing for these amendments. These are mostly just housekeeping, kind of update things and, just to fix some of the language clean up some of the old stuff, so, that's all that is. Okay. All right.
I
Um,
only have one question.
Okay.
Are they changing the language out of the 400?
We have anybody here from that zone, from that committee?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Okay, what was the question?
Are they changing the wording on it?
The wording that's in red is the proposed change, which is only one of the following residential uses shall be permitted per lot. That language is going to be, if that passes, it would be consistent with all of the other zones.
That was the only zone that did not limit.
Well, right now, in rural zone, you can have more than one duplex.
This is the the residential rural zone.
This says both. Residential rural zone. By adding language that states that only one residential use may be permitted on a lot.
Right, you can't have a duplex, a townhouse, a family structure, all three of them and a house on the same lot. You can't do all of them. You can
can't-
have one of
You
them.
you can have one or the other. Is that what?
Right.
Is that what you're telling me now? So that's exactly what this says here?
Yes. In other words, prior to that, all the other zones had actually specified that you could do only one. Somehow, the verbiage in this had not limited it to one only. And obviously, it wasn't intended that you should have a townhouse and a multi-house and a regular house all in the same lot. So that what this is simply catching a problem in the verbiage.
Okay, so by this change here, it definitely says that you can't have two single-family homes on a lot in the residential rural zone. And I don't think you probably can't now. But does that differ?
You can if it's over what, 45 acres?
Change, right?
That in the rural zone?
Yeah,
Correct. You have to
Yeah,
have
so-
40
no, it's the rural residential is what we're talking about.
Exactly.
But in the rural residential, if you're over 45 acres, you can build a second home that can be later subdivided as long as it's done in such a way that they can be subdivided and meet the requirements.
My concern is there being a change to the zoning
No,
that
there-
disallows multiple duplex?
only if if multiple duplexes were allowed, no.
Where and at?
No, they were prior to a certain date. But after the requirement of having contiguous land, dry land, they were no longer possible.
What?
In the subdivision of the property that you acquired. The
There's
original,
no subdivision, it's all one lot.
in the original proposal, which was a subdivision, to be a subdivision.
Yeah.
They were working under the concept of trying to build multiple lots on the property. But they were going under the concept that as long as their lots had a total amount of dry land, it was okay. The town meeting changed it so that it had to be contiguous dry areas. So what was happening was the original proposal was to build a house on this island, pump the septic over to this island and have the well or something else over on this island of one particular lot. That was changed at town meeting so that you can't build on two multiple housings on one lot unless you have the acreage.
Okay.
Then there's no problem.
So that, basically what I'm aiming here at is that there isn't a change to the existing.
No, think of it this way. The wording in the original zoning was basically a screw up by the town in this one zone. We did not limit you to using one of the available types of housing. It didn't mean that you could build all of them on the same lot. And that's the way it was reading by some tortured reading systems. So in other words, I don't think anyone expects to see multiple housing and, well, they don't expect to see the single-family dwelling, duplex, townhouses, and another style of multi-house on the same lot. You have to choose one or the other. Unless you have a lot of, you know,
Where are you reading?
right here. Under 5.
5 lot areas excluding steep slopes, wetlands, and roadways shall be as follows. And that has to do with what it says. Single family dwelling, 1 acre with a limit of 1 per lot.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know what number 1 has to do with the above statement, but so then number 2, duplexes, townhouse groups, and multifamily structures, 1 acre per dwelling unit. Okay, so it doesn't say 1 per lot.
Well,
Number 1 says
yeah.
1 per lot.
as
Number 2
that's a
does not
house,
say 1.
that's multi-housing. It's 1 unit per lot.
For a duplex, you need an acre per
Per
unit.
unit. I wish Doug was here because they were the ones that led on this.
Yeah, I was part of that. So Roger, exactly what he's describing is exactly what you're taking it the right way. So it's when you build the duplexes up there, you can build up duplexes, but you can't do like a duplex, a single family and a townhouse all on the same lot. So if you, it's, you know what I'm getting at though. You can build the duplexes or the townhouses or have a single family dwelling, but you can't just like group them all together. You know what I mean? The single family and the duplex, you couldn't do that on the same lot. But you can put duplexes up there, no problem, as long as you meet the acre requirements, which you have anyway.
Well, that's what.
Yeah, that's all it's doing is just limiting one structure or the other type of structure.
That's legitimate. What happened is, you know, a lot of these changes come about because the interaction usually is between the building inspector and applicants and the planner and applicants.
Yeah.
And they see these problems crop up and they bring the problems to us on the zoning amendment committee. And we have to find a way to solve it so that the problem doesn't become a problem for the town. So that's why definitions have to adjust. If there's something that crops up and the town attorney says, I can't defend you, you got to do something so that he can.
But you had said that you can build 2 houses on a lot if you had the acreage.
Yes,
And you could later subdivide it if you wanted. That's what you said.
yeah.
That's not what this language said.
That's in the rural
That's a
zone.
different thing.
That's the
in a
rural
different
zone.
In a different zone.
What Mr. Hoops was explaining is in the rural zone only. That has nothing to do with what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, this is rural residential.
We're on page 9, 9. Very end, last page. Yeah,
I'm reading it.
yeah,
So you say, I mean, I'm not looking at this for myself, I'm looking at it for other people. You say single family dwelling, you can put more on a lot if you have the acreage.
right. In other words, you do not have to subdivide. If you have over 45 acres, this was against I recommended against this, but at first you were not allowed to build a second house on a lot. Unless you subdivided. But what was passed was a concept that if you had over 45 acres, you could build a second house, assuming that there was enough space and area and frontage that you could later subdivide them. The problem that we had had in the nineties was that there were a bunch of lots with two houses on them. Once the zones had been changed in terms of the acreage required, they were no longer subdividable. So you had properties with two houses on them where someone couldn't sell it. Because two different people owned a house, two different houses, and there was no way they could sell it because they didn't have the land to go with it.
Excuse me. This is about the rural residential zone.
Not the rural
Not the
specific,
rural.
yeah.
So could we just stick to what we're supposed to be talking about? But he was bringing up the rural.
I was talking about something that was rural.
Just on a normal rural, he was talking about the rural zone. Wait, no. This is rural, yeah, rural residential, yep. Yeah, we're following suit with the other. Yeah. Yeah, we're following suit with the other zones.
I have to do without this.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion for the public? Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Okay. So. Any other questions or discussion from the board?
I'd like to make a motion to present the changes for the March ballot.
Second that.
Okay, just so propose the amendments as presented to the public hearing for the ballot of March 2024, correct? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That closes that. To, number 2, case P 24-37, Walter Borowski, applicant for the Walter Borowski Living Trust.
Mr. Chairman. If I recuse myself, does that do to our quorum?
We need,
Huh?
I think,
Hey, Josh, can you just push the button? Thank you.
I'm just gonna make a request that the board continue case P 24-37 to the next meeting, which I believe is January 21st.
Yes.
2000.
January 21st. All right, thank you. You're all set, Rod. Right,
I don't think that was Walter's wishes.
all right, so. Next case. Is completeness review application for public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. Case P 24-47 Prospect Mountain Survey, Paul Zuzgo, agent for Moonberry Hill Trust. Earl Bagley trustees. So this is for completeness. And this is to subdivide lot 59.42 acres into 2 lots, parent lot of 5.44 acres and one lot of 53.98 acres. So.
Curious, if we can accept the application until we hear about the right of way to see whether or not it's complete.
Well, it's a lot line adjustment
No, it's a subdivision.
or subdivision, right? You're subdividing into two lots.
I'd be glad to explain the right of way.
Yeah, but,
Uh,
well, he's got
Or back
waivers,
up.
we have waivers, right? Right? We do the waivers.
Mr. Chair,
we
could
do-
you just chime in for a second?
Sure.
So, Mr. Hoops, so as far as completeness goes, so they submitted a plan, whether there's stuff missing on the plan or not isn't part of the actual completeness part of things. So if there's this discussion about that right away that can take place, doesn't necessarily mean that that's a completeness item.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So we can do the waivers. Please. And then let Paul go over everything else.
That sounds good.
Yep.
I don't have a problem with the waiver request because if you look at the map and what's being proposed, nothing is being changed other than there is a small piece of land being retained and a large chunk of it being put into conservation. So nothing will be done with it once it's in conservation. So the waivers are not restricting any construction.
So the,
So,
the large piece that's gonna be in conservation, is that where this right of way is, or is this? all-
Yes.
yeah,
So
In
what,
other words, this whole piece here is going to be in conservation. That's going to be retained around the house.
so I don't understand Mr. Bowman's complaint if it's gonna be in conservation.
Well, it's
He's
that,
still gonna be able to walk through that.
I think there will be an explanation, but at the moment,
so,
there is no marking of right of way on the trail.
no.
That's the question.
And for now, so we can talk more about this, you know, we have the waivers for the property, for the plan that was submitted. And we have the completeness of whether or not,
Conditional upon the land being given to a conservation trust. I have no problem with waiving all the waiver, granting all the waivers.
I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
But I mean, if for any reason it doesn't go to conservation, you know, it would go for another reason. So that's why I'm putting the condition on.
So, your condition, so that, your condition is on the total subdivision? Or
In other
the,
words, what's the purpose of marking all the wetlands on this piece that's going to conservation? If it
Right.
doesn't go to conservation, then we should, if it doesn't end up going to conservation, then you need that information. And you need those markings.
right. No, I'm talking about the piece that they're breaking off. You're subdividing.
Right, in other words, they're keeping that. And all of this,
Oh, and it's already built on.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, so you-
Nothing's changing.
It's, yeah,
Okay.
So nothing will change. This is not to be built on. The question is there a right of way here? And once we accept the application, the whoever's going to explain to us what it is.
so. So Tom, can you make a motion on those three waivers?
I will make a motion that we grant the waivers of section 7, capital D, number 1, G, and section 7, capital D, number 1, J. Is that a J or an I? J.
It looks like it's dotted.
Yeah, it is, but it's a J. And then section 7, capital D, number 1, N. So the land that it's an excess slope of 25%, the wetlands jurisdictions, and the contiguous upland. So it's not being proposed to be construction or buildable. It's going to be, as long as it's donated to conservation, I fully respect the request for waivers.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And now,
I'll make a motion that we accept the application P 2447 for discussion
as complete, right?
as complete.
Need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Paul, you're up.
All right,
All right,
so the plan shows the road. Correct?
Correct.
And as you notice, there's a note that states that no written document was found stating a right of way or easement to anybody. Mr. Bagley's lot, I've taken it back. I've taken this whole area from Paul's Hill all the way to Avery Hill and taken it back to the 1700s. I know who lived there. I know how they died. I know everything. AJ's letter, if you look, his source documents, he showed the plan that Don Volz did. And he highlights this little thing down here. You probably can't read it.
No.
But it states, if you look at my response letter, I write down what he states, that he states that subject to such rights of record as may exist to pass and repass over the old range road. Well, if you know anything about range roads, they don't go in that direction. So-called crossing the premises, this means the surveyor of the plan didn't find anything either. Don never found a written document. So he covers his butt by putting that statement. There may be rights that he didn't find. I didn't find any. So that takes care of this plan. Then he goes and gives you this deed right here. This deed is, if you read it, it's Cleves to AJ. So Cleves is selling AJ his house and his piece, his 150 acres, and he describes it. And then he has this statement, reserving the right to pass across said premises as now traveled to the chef lot. Well, the chef lot is up above AJ's.
Yeah.
Cleves is reserving a right on AJ's piece, not Earl's piece. And this is the only reference to a right-of-way from Paul's Hill to Avery Hill. And it's the only one is Cleves was reserving a right on AJ's piece to reach to the chef lot in the back.
Is there,
That road has been there forever. AJ has a easement by prescription at the best, which is an unwritten right. And if you look in my letter, I explain what an easement by prescription is. It's an unwritten right. It's adverse possession.
right,
So that's the
Basically.
one where that says that if you've been using this for years, it's yours.
Every state has a statute of limitation. Some are 5, some are 20, some are more. You have to use it notorious, hostile, without permission.
So you're saying AJ never had the approval from Mr. Bagley to cross over his property?
There's no written,
I understand that, but. did
no
Mr.
written right of way.
I know, but did Mr. Bagley ever give AJ permission to cross over there?
Well, I think he did.
Okay.
Oh, she's shaking her head, yes,
He did, yeah.
that he had permission to go across.
That's not a right of way. It's not written.
Where did, was it, was it, I was reading it today. I don't know if it was what you wrote in response to somebody, but it was if you travel this,
That's the, how you acquire adverse possession.
It was an example.
so.
You know, so example, you live here, Earl lives here, you hunt here, you got a path over Earl's and you sit there and you go across that path for 5 years or whatever. You can sit there and say, this is an easement by prescription. But you have to do it by law. You have to go to court, prove it.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Adverse possession just
I
doesn't
understand what you're
happen.
saying. I
You have
understand
to
what you're
prove
saying.
it.
I see
So,
what you're saying.
just so I'm, Earl gave him permission to go across to go hunting.
Or
Is AJ looking for something more than that? Is he looking for a legal document right away, the same right away? I mean, basically, he said, yeah, you can go across.
no, he's stating he has one. But he has no documents that states he has one. He's sitting there showing you, oh, here's a right of way, but it's on his own property.
And to say that he has a right of way of Earl's would mean that he'd have to walk the exact same path.
He has.
After year. I mean, you couldn't, go over here this year, over there this year, because now you've not.
Well, does that section of Earl's property that is being traversed up by that road, it shows it goes across other people's property too.
Goes across AJ's property. He owns on both sides of Earl.
Okay, so it's his access going back and
It's-
forth. Is there any other way?
Well, he sold his house. So now that lot, this is the only access to that lot.
Where before he had access from the other.
Through
homes
his
that-
house,
Yeah.
where his house was.
Yeah.
So in essence, does it devalue the conservation land?
No.
Would it in any way impinge upon the use of that land if that right of way was, excuse me, if that road was, the trail was used? In other
No,
words,
but you have to also, so whoever gets that easement has to understand that they don't have any rights to go from that road out to Hall's Hill through AJ's property.
Yeah.
So there's no right there.
see that.
The only one who needs this written permission is AJ.
From Earl's point of view, does he have a problem with it, one way or the other?
No. In fact, they're working on documents with their lawyer before they.
None of that's gonna.
Hold
get
on,
recorded.
you gotta just, can you come up and just say it into the mic? If that's all right.
Public input yet.
Yeah, hang on, yeah. We just need to wait till we go to public for this, so.
No, that's fine.
Sorry.
She's the applicant.
She is the
Oh,
applicant.
She's the applicant's daughter.
The owner's
Okay.
daughter probably
All right.
has
so
some
she's part of the application, okay,
control.
okay, I'm sorry,
Or Earl.
I'm
can
sorry
come.
to make you, yeah,
She's coming forward.
Look.
So we can-
well,
She has pertinent
representing-
information. She's
she's
not
representing
necessarily
Earl.
just the public.
What's that?
she's representing Earl,
Sure.
yes, okay, there you go. Can you turn on?
See the one who applied, do we need an agent letter? Who applied?
That's a good question.
So you
We-
applied,
We bring people up all the time that have the information. that can help.
so we just need a quick agent letter if she's gonna speak on his behalf.
Earl's ready to rock.
Have to do this.
You're gonna have great fun putting in those,
Paul, just reach over and hit his
Yeah, turn his
microphone.
mic.
Let me explain a couple of things. I bought this land, I don't know how many years ago. When I bought this land, AJ wasn't in the picture. At the
Francis
time.
was.
Yeah. So that, in the meantime, AJ had bought a parcel of land down on Halls Hill Road to go up to get to his other land. And in the meantime, I'm trying to think who owned what at what time, but I told AJ that he had a right to use the land and stuff, and he could, you know, if he wanted to, he had a right to do improvements to it. So what has happened in the meantime, it has turned into something that isn't just something for somebody to get to do some logging on their property and stuff like that. It's basically turning into a road used for construction purposes.
For what purposes?
Construction. In other words, you know, stuff like that. And that's why this all came about.
Can I just stop you just for a second? Did you give AJ the right or the permission?
Permission. You didn't, a right is something written.
Right, so you gave him permission to use your land?
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to.
So that, what they used to do on his property is they had these motocross events where on the weekends, and the kids all came and they used the trails and stuff like that. And what happened was, I got a hold of the people who put on the event, and I said, look, I don't mind you going across my property, but you've got to give me a copy of your insurance. And I want a copy of your insurance, and it states that I'm on your insurance policy in case something happened. In the event, it was a 2-day event. So they kept sending me, you know, every time they had it, they'd send me that piece of paper and everything. And then all of a sudden, they didn't do it anymore. So, that's why I got along good with AJ and everything. So I'm a little puzzled that why he's doing this, you know?
Would this be the only access to the remaining property above you?
Only access for AJ to get to his
Yeah.
property.
Right.
So is it going to be used as a driveway to get to the property?
Well, until they have a written document stating what it's used for.
But I mean, there's no other, it's otherwise the property's landlocked.
Right.
Well, I mean, legally, he doesn't have the right. I mean, you've given him permission, but it's a lot different to have permission to use the trail as opposed to becoming a driveway.
But it sounded to me like the
He can
permission.
travel across it, and he has for many, many years.
But I mean, I
For
think,
taking his hay out, logs, he's done it for logging.
but it's a lot different if he's gonna build something on, that's permanent and that becomes a
Correct.
permanent road.
Then he needs a right of way,
That,
a written document.
Who created the lot with no frontage? When the.
it used to have frontage.
These are old lots. They all didn't have frontage.
Hmm.
These lots are the original, the chef lot. I mean, Pierce granted it to him in 1808. He never came up to it. It was just called the chef lot. Avery owned it.
Deed. Francis Cleves. And it states right in that there can be no development on the land that he gave AJ, no development and a couple other things. It's got to stay in perpetuity, which
Could you possibly make a copy of that and submit it to the planner for our files? That might be something that'd be important.
Well, you should have a copy of it's AJ's deed.
Yeah.
It's in the registry, right?
right.
Right, but I mean, you know, if someone's looking at a file when an application comes in, it's nice to have it there. Bill,
Well,
she's the family.
she needed
Is your name in the trust?
There should be an agent letter. Unless she's part of,
So she's a trustee of
She's
the
a
trust
trustee.
anyway, so.
We're hoping that's not moving out.
Yeah, you're a trustee, so
You're a trustee,
Come
then
on.
that's fine. Yep.
just say your name first and then we can,
Lean into the mic a little
Yeah.
bit. Otherwise it didn't record.
Name's Kelly Marshall, and I'm the daughter of Earl Bagley. As far as the question about working with a written document about the right for AJ to cross my father's property, we are working with an attorney, with our attorney to draw that up, that has, conditions and, what it should be used for. So we are working on that. AJ is aware of that. We do not know what you're talking about, this letter. We have not, there was no letter ever shared to us from AJ, to you guys. So, but whatever, we don't know where this transpired. So it seemed like there was communication about, that we were working on that and that we certainly said we would share that with him. We actually invited him to be part of those meetings. He was not able to make it, to the times that we were able to do it. So, we are working with that. We're not saying we don't want him to be able to, but we do want conditions about what that road becomes. It was a, woods road, just pine needles and, moss and, whatever woods road. It is now a 20 to 22 foot wide road, with, some type of,
It's
like
got rip rap.
ground up asphalt. There's also stone on both sides and four swales for drainage.
This is not a woods road.
No, it's a nice,
More.
it's a nicely built road, but it's 525 feet that it crosses Dad's property, and it's at the more 800, and then it's 20 to 22 feet. So in width. So we are working with our attorney to be, he's very great.
you're
about-
telling me this road's 22 feet wide?
Yeah. So this went from a woods road to this. So we're not saying that we're not going to let him pass, which is pretty, kind of a bummer about this whole thing, but it needs to be legal. It needs to be, as Paul said, it needs to be written down. It needs to be, because the folks that, Dad is, donating this property to for the Lakes Region Conservation Trust, they don't want it until we're all done with this. They want a legal document as well. So we're all working together on this. And like I said, this is unfortunate and we're not trying to be difficult. We're just.
Would that affect their acceptance of the property?
It might.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely, well, you'd have,
I'm just trying to verbalize it.
With them about what they, what they would see would be,
Are they studying the conditions?
they are working with us on the conditions and they want to see it, of course, before, anything gets signed and stuff. But, they've been working with us before we meet with our attorney and, asking questions about that. So it's something that, Dad, like a lot of people do, it's a handshake and yeah, you can do that, which has turned into something that's quite a bit more
Called
than that.
courtesy.
And so we just need to make sure it's done legally and
so you guys, so right now, just so I'm trying to process this right way. So you guys own the land in its totality. There is no written right of way, just an old verbal, you can cross here. And now it's turned into what it is today. So as of right now, you own everything that's on that property, right?
Correct.
Right, there's no legal right of way.
Okay,
Yeah.
so as far as them subdividing this property, you are well within your right to do so. Okay. Where is the issue with this?
Well, and we could write up the approval subsequent.
Upon conditions that the right of way get resolved.
Well, that and that if it remained, it would be such as a woods road or a path, not I think the problem, the conversation, then let's go with the fear is it's gonna become a driveway, so now we can
Develop it.
develop that lot. I think.
Well, Earl answered that there is an agreement originally in Francis Cleve's will deed that precludes development of the land.
Right.
So
But
that
I-
in itself, to me, is a killer right there.
But I have heard that that was changed.
Now-
So that it's, that is not necessarily the case anymore. So if you
Well,
look at it.
It's not in his deed, current deed.
So there has been some
Well, if the
modification.
deed is rewritten, I mean, the deed was transferred to AJ, and it's not in AJ's deed. It was in Francis's
Clay.
deed.
But-
So that when AJ's deed was written, someone left it out.
And I'm not ready to go down that rabbit.
No,
hole,
I know,
so-
but I mean, it's something that should have been continued.
But, yeah, I understand that. But the thing is that when we we are working with our lawyer, the conditions and the purpose of that right of way will be outlined. And it will be, whatever it's going to be, it's
For
not going to
agricultural
include,
purposes only.
it's not going to include, maybe it's for forestry or agriculture. It's not going to be used for an everyday driveway. That will not be what's included in the right of way, the document. And if, hopefully, we can work it out amicably and we don't have to go down the legal route, but, that's our intention, our intention is to have that land be, conserved for, wildlife purposes and, it's one of the highest ranked area, for the fish and game. It's a pink map, it's all over the place and, that's what we want and, I believe AJ wants the same thing for his property and for that, we just need to work out this logistic road here.
I have no problem with the subdivision whatsoever. And the condition would simply be that they resolve legally access with no subdivision possible on that road.
Does anybody have any more questions from the board for these guys?
Hey, I'll just have
If
one
we-
other one.
Oh, go ahead, Ron.
Well, I see that Scott Williams, well, Ralph Trust, owns to the right of AJ's land. And then this Sandra Jean is on the other side of AJ. That now is Sandra Jean's property landlocked?
So they're just like, no,
Oh.
Sandra Jean.
Or is she?
She's not landlocked. She has road frontage on House Hill.
Okay, all right, that was a, that's,
So the only landlocked piece up there right now
Is AJ.
is AJ's property.
And he created it as landlocked when he sold, when we subdivided his land, he had that right of way going through there. He used it. And then, he sold off the house. So now he's landlocked.
Okay.
oh, so AJ sold
He
Cleve's.
sold the house.
The
So
whole, the house.
now that property is
He
land.
sold the house in 25 acres and kept the rest.
So the only thing he owns is this land across the way here.
And he owns a piece between Bagley and, Halls Hill.
Yeah,
This
there's a
piece here.
house on it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's the only piece of land he owns now. He doesn't own this.
No, but he owns this.
He still owns that.
He only owns
Only access to his.
this right
property.
here, dividing line right now between the old Cleve's house and the piece that AJ owned.
So as long as the road is not used for commercial purposes, other than his logging and that sort of thing, farming. That would be one thing, but if
I would,
commercial development,
I would restrict it more than not used for commercial.
It would definitely behoove
It
you
would be
guys
agricultural.
to do that.
Oh, yeah, and we're, like I said, we're working with our lawyer and he's really good and so we're not, we know how wide, the road can be, where, the width that is now, it could never, you can't have a subdivision with a 22-foot road. So we're pretty knowledgeable.
actually built the town specs 22 feet, you could.
Absolutely. I think the minimum requirement is
20.
22 feet. It's 20. I thought it was 22.
Yeah, so we'll continue to, certainly, work with our lawyer and, like I said, hopefully it can be done amicably. If not, we'll need to go a different route, but, yeah, but I'm asking, can I ask about the condition? If you make it a condition, does that mean that the, subdivision doesn't get recorded?
No, condition means that something has to be included or it's not, the whole thing is not viable.
It'll have to be resolved before it gets recorded.
Okay.
In other words, and if he won't agree to, for argument's sake, if we require that one of the conditions is the road only be used for agricultural purposes and he doesn't want to agree to that, it's not, it doesn't go.
Okay. Okay, I understand, but the challenging part for us is that the 5.44 acres with the house is, we're hoping to sell that property.
Yep.
And the longer, if this ends up taking 6 more months, that means, that, it's just
You
hard.
don't have to do conditions precedent. They're doing a subdivision.
No,
We don't have to.
no.
They're doing.
Right away can be,
We're trying to
right
get.
away can be written up after,
Yeah, we're-
after things are
we're
recorded,
trying to-
whatever.
We're trying
He
to
just-
get at, is there anything that, AJ is saying that I have a right to that road? We're finding out that there's nothing written.
Yeah.
That says that he does. So that was kind of the wrench that was in this. If am I right with this?
I think so,
The
yeah.
wrench that was in this, and I think that wrench is gone. So
So too.
If there's no wrench, it's just a
Right.
subdivision,
it's a subdivision.
minor subdivision.
Yeah. So I don't.
I have no
don't-
problems
I don't
with
think
it.
we have
Well,
to do.
I would put in that condition that that must remain a agricultural woods road, if anything. I mean, and that's in their favor when they go to court with this.
Is that something that the board should put a condition on, or is that something that the property owners should talk to their lawyers about?
I don't.
I'm just afraid that
I mean-
I would hate to see you guys get stuck into something
I
that,
I don't
probably
feel, I
shouldn't have
don't feel
decided on.
comfortable with, myself, I'm just saying, I don't feel comfortable with, it's your property. You don't, he doesn't have anything that I can see in writing that gives him the right to access to that. You gave him verbal permission,
Other than the verbal.
the verbal
permission.
permission. So I don't really, I personally don't feel comfortable with putting any restrictions on it. It's a subdivision. It's, and then you guys can straighten that stuff out later. But that's how I feel. I mean, that's my opinion. It's their lane. My opinion,
That's what I would recommend.
I agree with you.
so.
What the board could do, instead of putting this condition under conditions precedent, you could put it under subsequent conditions that just to resolve the legal issues regarding the right of way could be under subsequent.
But would that stop them from recording this?
No, so
Okay.
they can move forward.
All right.
You can move forward, right? They would be able to move forward with the subdivision, get it recorded.
Right.
And then these are things that take place after or as in continuing.
Okay. All right, I'll make the motion. Then, after due hearing the, I make the motion.
Can I, did we?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Can you-
sorry. I wrote that
Yeah.
down. Forgot.
Thank
I
you.
Wrote the note right there, public. Any, public? This, you guys got anything, any discussion, any questions? Okay. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay, I'd like to make a motion, case P 24-47 for the Newbury Trust, Earl Bagley trustee for the final minor subdivision for a 2-lot subdivision of property located map 4, lot 1, 349 Halls Hill Road, Alton, New Hampshire, including the conditions laid out in the plan of review and as discussed at the hearing, subsequent conditions precedent for the legal terms you want to work out with the access to AJ's property. And with that subsequent, that's not going to stop you from recording any of this.
I'll second that.
Okay. How's that? Is
All
that
fine.
okay?
Yep.
That's fine, okay. All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All set, yeah.
This is, I didn't find anything. What's that? Well, these are all continuing. It's Bruce and Victoria Kennedy. Paperwork. Yeah, they continued. Continued until January, continued to January. Yeah. So we got Earl Bagley, and then the next one
So
is
the next
continued
one,
until January.
so
This one's continued till January.
these are all continued, okay. All right. So, the next case P 24-48, Prospect Mountain Survey, Paul Zuzko, agent for Bruce and Victoria Kennedy owners, that's being continued to the January 21st, meeting. And number 4, design review, case P 24-49, Jones and Beach Engineers, Brad Jones, agent for Outlook Properties LLC, will also be continued to the January 21st, 2025, meeting. The agenda, so we're gonna move to other business. Old business? Old business?
Nope.
New business, approval of minutes. Planning board meeting minutes, Tuesday, November 19th, 2024.
I'll make a motion. We approve the Tuesday, November 19, 2024 minutes.
I just have a question.
Oh, okay, do we have any corrections? Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's a question.
Okay,
Well, I'm looking at, the Norway Plains Associates, case P 24-44,
which number line?
170.
170, okay.
Said Mr. Sample stated you would be stepping down from the board for this case. I wouldn't have stepped down for that case, I don't believe.
You stepped down on 2 different cases.
It was the one, I thought Rod, didn't you just step down for the one?
Baronski,
Right,
Was the only one.
that was the only one I thought, right?
exactly.
So strike.
So 170, we'll cross that out.
70. So I gotta do, I'm sorry. So I'll adjust, I'll amend mine to.
Do we have any others before you?
Oh, sorry.
There was one other.
Do we have any other ones?
Where?
There was one thing that, talking about, skipping my mind right now, the concept of, what is it called when you're 2 towns involved?
We're doing the minutes right now.
Right, but
Okay.
there is a mention in there.
Okay.
There's a
Do you know what line? It's
definition.
on? You know what line it's on you?
In the very beginning, I don't have my copy.
You referring to regional impact?
Yeah, I was the town's representative to Lakes Region Planning Commission.
Yep.
And the Lakes Region Planning Commission has a definition of that impact. And it's when there is anything that is within the border of 2 towns. So that whether the impact is great or small, it's still an impact. And the concept from their point of view was they simply wanted to know whether there was traffic that was going to be using both places, how it was going to impact the 2 different places differently. And I mean, it'd be interesting. I don't know from Cherry Valley which way you would go.
It was ruled that it wasn't a regional impact.
Well, it is a regional impact.
It was ruled by them.
They ruled that it wasn't, right?
Yeah, they did.
Well, that was their definition when I was a representative, so
Maybe they changed it.
they could have, but I mean, usually in other words, the regional impact exists. But the concept is whether the impact is enough to make a difference.
I agree, but we submitted it to them because we said it was and they said it wasn't.
No, it's just, there was no definition.
Okay.
There was no
But
definition.
it's not in
got you.
here.
And I was simply trying to
Do we-
expand on that.
Do we have anything to correct in here?
No,
Okay.
I just wanted to explain
Okay.
it, that's all.
Anybody else have any changes to the minutes?
So I will amend mine to strike 170, line 170 from the record. Mr. Sample was present for that case.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion,
No, second that.
okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, correspondence for board review, approval of 2025 planning board meeting schedules. I can't make any of these.
Neither can I.
What? Me neither.
Does anybody have any issues with these?
No.
Nope.
I will make a motion. We approve the 2025 planning board meeting schedule.
Second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence for the board's information. Seeing none. Correspondence for the board's information on state permit application. Seeing none. Any other business to come before the board? Any public? Nothing from the public? Okay,
So before we-
on that, I'd like to wish everyone happy holidays.
Roger has a question.
You have a question, Roger?
Well, yeah, just, I mean, as we talked last time, see, I brought
Yep.
work from last week and I got it back.
Yeah, I
here.
brought on too. Yep.
So, from my thoughts are, the only paper I need to continue from this meeting would be this one. Everything else is
I would,
passe.
yeah, I would say so.
That would
Yeah.
be my only.
Okay. All right. So like I said, with that.
So you have to memorize all the Zach changes.
I would like to wish everyone happy holidays. And we just need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'm in. Second that one.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Back to Oak Island.